Hi folks, one of the most productive things that PHP does for us is use the GD library or graphic design library. It allows us to basically thumbnail pictures so that they load faster onto our browser. So I'm going to be honest with you, I use PHP for almost all of my projects as far as thumbnailing, outputting of images. And let me show you a little brief demo of what I'm talking about. If I go to my desktop here, you're going to see a large photo called beach.jpg. Okay. Now this photo, when I upload it and I go into preview, if my preview ever does load, actually I can do a Command I and show you a little bit more data. This is 168 kilobytes and it's going to be pretty large. It's pretty wide. It's 1880 by 752, and that's exactly what it looks like right here. So let me show you with thumbnailing what I can do with it. So this is thumbnail.php, and it's a script I've been using for about a decade, and I have it set right now to thumbnail JPEG. So I'm going to create a query string right here, and I'm going to add the following. Pic equals beach.jpg, and height equals 300, and width equals 300. Now watch what happens when I change it to width equals 500. It gets larger, right? I think the actual width was 1880, so I'm going to do that now. And it's a little bit larger. I'll do 1880 with the height. So basically what we're doing is manipulating the height and width of this picture and having PHP do that, okay? Pretty big now. It's a nice picture. It's pretty clean. We saw it was 168 kilobytes. Well, let's move it back to height equals 50 and width equals 50. That's going to be pretty small, right? It's a small thumbnail. Let's do 150 now, just to give you an idea, okay? And we're going to go ahead and hit that. Now it's 150. It's a little bit larger. Now I can save it. I'm going to save this image, and I want to show you what the difference is between using PHP and using, here we'll overwrite it, using just straight HTML to size your images. Because what happens with HTML attributes, they're very static, and they're not always the ratio of the original image. So I'm going to click thumbnail here, and I'm going to do the Command I and see the properties. So I have turned a 168 kilobyte file into a 3 kilobyte file. So your website loads faster. That's one of the major points of this. The other major point is that with the proper thumbnail script, the resolution will be perfect. It should always be perfect, okay? So here's a little bit more on this. Remember, if I go back to this, this is 1880 by 752. Now, if my math's correct here, that's exactly a 2.5 to 1 ratio. So if I divide 1880 divided by 752, here, we'll try it. 1880 divided by 752, that should be 2.5 to 1. There you go. So it's 2.5. So it's 2.5 times wider than it is high. So this is important. Therefore, if I keep this resolution, it's always going to be the same. So no matter what I do, if I do 400 by 400 again, it's going to be 2.5 times. So whatever 400 divided by 2.5 is, 400 divided by 2.5, that's going to be 160. So this is now 400 by 160, and you see that works on the top. So our goal here is to use PHP and our math skill to make sure that our images are always the same resolution. So let's go ahead and take a look, and I'm going to move forward here. Let me make sure that everything's running with my video perfect, and I'm going to edit my PHP script and give it to you after so that you can see it. Okay? So you saw the URL window, and we've covered scalar_get in week 1. So basically we got values from the URL window. And you see again with get that it's completely cached. If I just hit a query string, you see all of my options. So they're just pairs of variables that appear after a query string. So these are the values that are inbound, okay? Now, what's really interesting is this get image size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out the header, because this header here commits the entire page to be an image. And I want to actually play around a little bit and figure out what the variables are. So what I'm going to do is var dump scalar size. So this is an array in the GD library that will give me all the information I need to know about the picture. And once I upload it, it should be functional. There we go. So I'm going to hit refresh again. And I still get this output of the image. So I'm going to, what's happening there is the browser is being outputted with the actual content of the image itself. In fact, what you see here, everything below the var dump of that, is all the information about the picture as far as the browser can interpret it. Once I have that header content type equals image/JPEG, that's when this image becomes an image. But it would still be corrupt because I have text in it. When you commit a page to be a JPEG, you have to have the entire page be a JPEG. It can't have text like you see at the top here. So I'm going to hit refresh and just look at the array now. So this is the array of getImageSize. The first part is the width. The second is the height. Third is the type. The type is basically a number. Like 1 is a PNG, 2 is a GIF, 3, or it's an array, so it would be 0, 1, 2. Yeah, but 2 is definitely a JPEG. Then I have a string, which is actually the HTML attributes of its original size. Somewhat useful, but I'd rather resample the pics to fit my web page. Then I have my bits, the number of alpha channels, and this last one's super duper important and very important for your homework. So knowing that, I need to get this array and work with it. And what I'm going to do is uncomment the header and go over the code a little bit. So basically, we want to find out if our image to be thumbnailed is higher than wide or wider than high. So to do that, we have to have a ratio. Now this would be, let's pretend like this were 300, the width. So this would be 1880 divided by 300, right? Or about 6 and 62.5, something like that, or 6.2.5. That's the ratio of the width times the 300. And then the height, remember the height was like 750, and the max height is 300, so that height ratio would be more like 2.5. So obviously this width ratio in this specific case wins out. So our width ratio is larger or equal than the height ratio. And therefore the ratio equals that width ratio, which is like 6.5. This condition is not met because this is not higher than wide, and so we have a ratio that equals that 6.5. Move forward. We have variables for the original width, 1880, the original height, which was 752, I think, and then we can take a new width and make it equal to the size divided by the ratio. So, and new height by the size by the ratio. So that's where we get the 300 divided by 2.5, 67, I think it is. But actually it's more than that. Excuse me, it's going to be like 125 or whatever. But in the case of, 400, what was it, 250, something like that? So whatever the new width and height is, that's based on this new ratio. So 1880 divided by the 6.2 is going to be 300. So the new width is 300. And then we do 750 divided by the 6.2, and we get like 100 and whatever that is, 107, something like that. Okay, so now we have our new height and our new width. Time for PHP's GD library. So what we're going to do is have an output of the JPEG, and then what we're going to do is create a variable that equals image create from JPEG. Now this function is a GD library function, and what it does is it creates a variable that holds all the data from the original pic. If you recall, pic equals beach.jpg. Then we have a thumb that equals image create true color off the new width and height. Now this would be the canvas, so it's going to be like, I forget, 400 by 100 or something. And that thumb is going to be our new canvas. Now this function is super important. Now everything in blue is a GD library function, but it goes in pairs. Like we're going to take the canvas and paste the source image onto that canvas, but at the X and Y coordinates of the thumb and the X and Y coordinates of the source image. And then we're going to take the new width and height and replace it with the size of width and size of height onto those two variables. Lastly, we're going to output the image, that's what this does, for the thumb, and finally destroy the image from the cache so that it doesn't slow down the script and that doesn't retain within memory. So let's talk about this a little bit more. Now that we've seen the code, see what it can do, I have this, right? I can point it to anything out there. So let's go ahead and hit save. I want to make sure that there is no var dump anymore. Looks like we're good. And there we go. So I'm going to do this. And there's our thumbnail. So I can point this to anything. If I have, like, let's say it's in an images folder, and I did beach like that, right now it would give me an error message because there's no picture. So, but let's say we did, had a folder called images, like this, and we dragged our beach in there. Now I could do the same thing here again, and it should work, should be fine, and see it works. So that's how this thing works. Now, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to make a separate video if you guys need it, if you need more help with the homework. But the homework this week is going to ask you to detect if the picture being thumbnailed is a GIF or a PNG. And how would you do that? Well, this is how you would do that. Remember, this variable has image/JPEG, image/GIF, image/PNG. So much like this this week's content, you would write a condition. Okay? I know it's challenging, but I'm here to make you better PHP people. So you write a condition, and basically everything here that relates to JPEG, that's what would go in that condition based on the type. So if it's a GIF, we would do GIF and GIF and GIF right there. If it's PNG, we would do PNG, PNG, and PNG. One last caveat. This will not work on transparent PNGs or animated GIFs or transparent GIFs. Those are too complicated of a feature to be thumbnailed. That you would have to resize the image yourself before you put it on your web page. Now, one last thing, because it's kind of weird to see this, right? How would you use this in your sites? Well, in your HTML, your actual output in the on your website, you would use an HTML page like the following. And I'm going to go ahead and edit this because I changed the location. So I have an image source tag in this HTML, and it's going to be images/beach. And I'll go ahead and upload it, and it should work fine. So basically, you treat this image. See, I can inspect it, and you'll see it's an image source tag. So this is not a PHP script, even though it looks like one. It's really an image, and that's because the PHP page had a header. So watch, I can save this as an image, and once again, it's going to be fine. It's going to be called thumbnail1, whatever. I don't like punctuation in file names, but now when I go to my desktop, there's thumbnail1. It's downloading right now. Shouldn't take this long because it's really small. But there it is right there. So, and there's the thumbnail. So, like I said, it's not a PHP script at this point. It's actually an image, and that's why we have an image source tag with that value. Anyway, any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.